Hello, welcome to Spotlight, beaming arty warmth in your direction.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening we hear about a concert this weekend to celebrate the life of the brilliant Manx soprano Margaret Curphey. Chat to a rebranded Chrissy Wilson from Stage Door Entertainment about a nude calendar and forthcoming production of Calendar Girls, raising money for a great cause, of course. And enjoy a gin and tonic at the preview of a wonderful new exhibition at the Manx Museum by artist Julia Ashby-Smyth. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, strip, calendars, ceramic, sculpture, drag. On it goes. Just email spotlight@manxradio.com or howardkane@manxradio.com. at manxradio.com, or both if you like. I'd love to hear from you, and if I don't hear from you, I can't feature on the programme, and I'd love to do that. So 2 wonderful events taking place on the Isle of Man this coming weekend. Plenty more, I'm sure, as well, before anyone says. The first I know of it this Friday evening, when a great concert is going to take place to celebrate the incredible musical life of the most eminent Manx singer of the last 50 years, the soprano Margaret Curphey, who passed away in March of this year at the age of 86. The tribute and celebration of Margaret's life and career will feature local choir Glenfaber Chorale, as well as many well-known Manx voices and recordings of Margaret herself. Margaret's sister and musical director of the Glenfaber Chorale, Muriel Corkish, and Margaret's husband and fine baritone himself, Philip Summerscales, told me more.
Well, after Margaret died, the choir had a committee meeting, and we were discussing concerts and what we were going to do. So we just decided we'd do a concert the back end of the season, and we'd do it for Forget Me Not, as that they'd helped Margaret and the family when she was poorly.
What's the concert going to consist of then? What's the format actually going to be?
It's all light music. We're not doing anything heavy, no opera. Well, Margaret's going to do the opera bits, but we're keeping it light and hoping that'll bring a few more people in, that, knowing it's not going to be oratorio and leader and all that sort of thing.
So a very mixed bag, sort of suitable for anyone.
Yes, yeah, very much.
Who else is going to be appearing? Because there's some rather good guest artists.
There are. And they were all very willing to come. I didn't have to twist any arms. We've got Neil Taverner, this year's Cleveland medalist, Simon Fletcher, Christine Sutcliffe, David Kilgallen and his family, although David won't be there, he's gone off on holiday, but his family will be. Graham Kirkland's accompanying the soloists, and then we've got the ladies' choir and the chorale, and Jean Graham will be playing for us.
Margaret herself, very well known on the Isle of Man. Philip, tell us a bit about her early life, because I think to my mind, she's certainly one of the most famous singers the Isle of Man's ever produced.
Well, yes, I mean, Margaret had years and years, as the rest of her family, were very involved with the Manx Music Festival, and for years and years she sang in the various competitions and eventually won the Cleveland medal. I think she was about 21.
1960, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And from there, that same year, she went over to Blackpool and won the Blackpool Rose Bowl. And that was an indication of, that she was a seriously good singer, exceptionally good singer. So, and from there she went to Birmingham School of Music and studied there with Gordon Clinton, and I think you did, didn't you?
I sang with him. Gordon Clinton was the principal of Birmingham.
Yeah.
It was John Carroll Case was her singing teacher, and David Gallagher, I think it was
David
his name.
Gallagher,
Yeah.
So did she think about going in for a career in music quite early on?
Well, yes, because she wasn't that keen on doing an academic music career, because what she was extraordinarily good at was performing. She was a great role player, and towards the end of her time at Birmingham, she auditioned for the Arts Council Opera for All tour, which was a group of young soloists, graduated from college, and they would go around to all the smaller towns like Accrington or these little, or these small venues, and so she joined that with another great singer, Stafford Dean. He was a great he finished up being a very good international bass singer, and he was in that same group. And from there, she actually she auditioned for Sadler's Wells Opera. Now, Sadler's Wells was based in Islington. It's a beautiful theatre, the old Sadler's Wells Theatre, and she was taken on to sing Michaela in Carmen, which you will hear on Friday night, a recording of Margaret singing the famous aria from Carmen. From there she stayed with Sadler's Wells, which, as you probably know, Howard, became English National Opera. And so through that period, Margaret was there about 13 years, singing principal roles, mainly, obviously, all the dramatic soprano roles, which were Violetta, Traviata, Countess in Marriage of Figaro, she was a great countess. And all these things were wonderful roles for her.
Was she drawn to opera early on, do you think?
Yes. Do you remember, Muriel? Did she do a lot of opera at home?
Well, she did,
Yeah.
but she was in the Manx Operatic Society, so she always did leads in that. Margaret and Mary were both in that, but Margaret did the leads in lots of the shows. So it was there from early on, but she just liked the opera.
Yeah.
And I think you were just mentioning, Philip, the sort of the opera for all then, and this was the 60s, which is very forward-thinking, because even now, I think, for some people, opera seen as being a little bit elitist, perhaps difficult to get into, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, it's an ideal opportunity because it is difficult to start, and it's no less difficult now. It's very, very, as usual, arts cash is tight. But what Margaret did was, if she found a role like Michaela in Carmen, there were very few that could sing it any better than she could, and she was also a good actress. On stage, she was a really convincing Michaela. She hated singing the role, incidentally. She did, because it's such a wet part.
Yeah.
But she has this wonderful aria in the middle of the opera where she's trying to plead with Don Jose to come back and settle down with her and have 19 kids. And, of course, Margaret wasn't like that at all.
And, of course, that's the thing with opera, isn't it? It's not just the singing. I think to be a really good opera star, you need to be able to act as well.
Yes, you do, yeah. And, of course, as she went through the various roles, like Violetta in Traviata and Bohème, Mimi in Bohème, Musetta in Bohème as well. But what she did do, she became more and more... she met up with the managing director, who was then Lord Harwood. Well, first of all, Stephen Arlen at Sadler's Wells, and then Lord Harwood at the Coliseum. And it was decided that they should route Margaret's career to Wagner, because she had sung Eva in Meistersinger with great success. Even though that was the lightest, as you know, of the Wagner operas, that was the lightest of the operas, and she sang that with great success. And then she was groomed by Reginald Goodall, the famous Wagnerian conductor, to sing the Wagner roles in the Ring Cycle, starting with Sieglinde, Gutrune actually in Götterdämmerung, and then Sieglinde in Valkyrie, and then eventually the Brunhildes.
And you were saying her career sadly cut shorter than it might have been after singing all the way around the world and achieving great fame. And I think her last ever was at the Air and Arts Centre.
Yes, her farewell concert was at the Air and Arts Centre, and Alberto Remedios, who she sang several operas with. In fact, Meistersinger was one of them, and of course he was in most of the Ring Cycles. And myself in that farewell concert, and it was a kind of sad moment, but it was just very difficult for her. She still had a great voice, of course, but it was time to just not have the worry of performing.
So just remind us again that concert is this coming Friday. Just give us the time and place.
7:30 at St Andrew's Church at St Ninians. No tickets. Just come in and there'll be a retiring collection, and we've got a fabulous raffle.
Sounds like it should be a lovely night and a splendid celebration of one of the island's best ever singers. I hope to see you there, because I will be there.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Hot on the heels of that concert, albeit coming from a slightly different background, if you're in the Strand Centre in Douglas on Saturday morning, you might want to look out for the Calendar Girls. A musical version of the famous play and film, of course, starring Julie Walters, is being staged at the Gaiety Theatre next May. It tells the story of how a group of WI members from Yorkshire decided to strip off for a calendar in order to raise funds for a local hospital after the husband of one of the women died from cancer. The female members of the cast have produced their own calendar here on the Isle of Man ahead of the production, also to raise money for a very good cause. Chrissy Wilson from Stage Door Entertainment told me it really was a case of art imitating life.
So we've called ourselves the Manx Calendar Girls. The calendar is a Calendar Girls calendar. We're all nude, very tastefully so, but we are also sharing a little bit about Manx culture. Each month has a link to something very Manx that's happening. The calendar features a lot of Manx tartan and lovely Manx ladies.
It does indeed, and people will be familiar with the show again. So this is ahead of the show itself. Why did you want to do the show again?
So the show, we got the rights for the show, and we want to do it particularly to support charity. So the charity that we're supporting is the Big Manx Community. It's a Manx charity. All the money raised will stay on the island, and it will particularly go to help those living with and in the last days of living with cancer. My husband was diagnosed with cancer in 2022, and it's a weird thing to have a life that you don't recognise handed to you. And I think it's really important to turn negatives into positives. And this opportunity came up, and my lovely business partner and best friend, Lisa Kreisky, and I said, shall we do this? And she said, yes, let's. And we want to raise some money for people who know what it's like to be handed a life they don't recognise, you know, and given some help. We're doing all right. We're kind of soldiering on, and Chris is responding well to treatment. But his cancer is advanced, which is not a word you want to hear in association with your husband's cancer, but that's what it is. He's responding well to treatment, though, I should say that. But to have your life totally turned upside down, and I know what that's like, and a lot of people have that and need, you know, financial support in whatever way, and we want to just help them.
So it's the very best of reasons, and again, very strong link with the original Calendar Girls, which people will be very familiar with.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, it's very much life imitating art, because Lisa and I are taking the two main characters, so we'll be two best friends living with this horrible diagnosis, and working out a way to do something good.
And now the calendar, first off, we should say, right, so it's being launched this coming weekend?
That's right. We have our launch day at the Strand Centre. We're there from 10 until 4. You can come and see us, and please buy a calendar, donate to the charity, talk to us about maybe sponsoring the show. Yeah, all sorts of things, really. So the whole thing really is just about making something good. And actually the Big Manx Community, the BIG, stands for believing in good. And I really, really believe in good and keeping positive and turning that frown upside down. Gosh, that's a cliche, isn't it?
That's
but there we go.
Good cliche. Good cliche. If people can't get down on the Saturday, where else will they be able to get them?
So you can contact us via our Facebook page, Stage Door Entertainment, Isle of Man, or you can email us, stagedoorentsiom@gmail.com.
Turning to the show itself, again, people will be more than familiar with it. They'll know the film. It's been performed over here twice, I think, but this is the musical.
Yes. So that has never been done on the island before. It's Gary Barlow has written this amazing music, and it's really beautiful music, actually. And because it's been written by a pop star, it's really catchy, it's really fun. Not necessarily songs that you will have heard already, but you'll certainly go out humming these songs. And we've got a really amazing lineup of cast. I mean, you have the wonderful privilege of playing my husband, don't you, darling?
I'm looking forward to it already.
And we've got just all of these lovely ladies, lovely chaps, and they're all just coming with us on this journey. And yeah, the music's amazing, and it's going to be just the most fun show.
And that's going to be at the Gaiety next May?
That's right. We're in May. We're in the last week of May 2025. It's actually practice week. So we're not hoping for kind of drizzly weather for practice week, but it might help us to fill our houses, you know, just in the evenings,
You never know.
evenings.
And the name
yeah.
itself as well, the Calendar Girls, it's such an iconic show that I think
Yes.
people, again, go for it because they know what the show is. They know the wonderful, as you say, story about sort of turning negatives into positives, about the whole story about that, and the fact that it's always raising money for good causes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, these lovely ladies of the WY in Yorkshire who originally had the idea, I think they would be so astounded to know that they're still touching people's lives and still raising money and still making a legacy of that wonderful calendar and the reasons behind it, which I can obviously really strongly relate to.
And what about the shoot itself for the calendar? Again, we were chatting about this as we came in. Did you enjoy that? Because that in itself is quite a thing for someone to do.
It was hilarious. We're really lucky in that we sort of picked our cast from people that we already knew and our friends, really. And we've got a lovely already camaraderie and that feeling of these women really knowing each other well. We're not going to have to fake that or learn how to do it because we're friends already. And it was a bit of a case of, right, come on, we're doing the group shots first. Everyone get everything off. But it was just hilarious, really. It was just really, really good fun and weirdly liberating. But yeah, it's just fab.
Marvellous. So, right, just a recap then. People want to see the calendars. The launch of it can come down Saturday down at the Strand Centre. What time?
So we'll be there from 10 until 4.
Lovely. And if people can't get there then and they'd like to get a calendar, they get in contact with?
We on our Facebook page, Stage Door Entertainment, and our email, stagedoorentsiom@gmail.com.
Lovely. And then look out for socials as we go through the winter into next year, because the show itself will be hitting the Gaiety stage next May.
And tickets are already on sale.
Already on sale.
And
Get your
kind of
tickets
going
now.
a little bit like hotcakes. If you
I was going to say,
pardon the Calendar Girls pun.
Well, I have to say, I have done the show, not the musical. I have done the straight stage play before, and I think on both occasions it sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So I have absolutely no doubt this one's going to do the same. So quite literally, if you want to go and see Calendar Girls, the musical, don't leave it too late.
Absolutely.
Because you'll be disappointed.
Pair of tickets and a calendar, what a fabulous Christmas present.
And whilst I am indeed in the production, before anyone asks, I don't feature in the calendar, sadly, although that statement alone has probably boosted sales by at least 10 or 15%. Go and check it out and say hello to the girls. It's been beautifully done, very wittily done as well, in full colour. It would grace any wall of reasonable size. Rumour has it that Lisa Kreisky's picture for her month wasn't actually posed, but just a picture from her extensive social media feed one rare weekend when she was actually at home in her kitchen knocking up some buns. But I'm sure that can't be true. To another kind of wonderful artwork, and I had the great pleasure in attending the preview night for artist Julia Ashby-Smyth's latest exhibition, and first, I believe, at the Manx Museum, Rare Sightings and Urban Faeries. It was a packed event, complete with live harp music from 2 young fairy harpists, and liberally lubricated, try saying that after a couple of gins, by refreshment from the Fenodry Distillery, whose bottle labels are beautifully adorned by Julia's work, of course. I found the quietest spot I could, which still wasn't that quiet to be honest, but full of atmosphere, to grab a word with a slightly shell-shocked Julia, who didn't seem to be quite able to believe how many people had turned up to enjoy her work.
It's a bit of a shock, a rabbit. I'm a bit of a rabbit in the headlights at the moment because it's been a bit heaving. It's been lovely. It's been fabulous to see so many people and faces that I've not seen for ages as well. So yeah, it's been great.
And you were saying earlier on that you've always wanted to exhibit in this space.
Oh, ever since I came into the Manx Museum when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I've always wanted to have an exhibition in the Manx Museum. Yeah, it's a special place.
Is it just because it's a museum, or do you like the lighting, or just because of where it is, or because obviously you've got a lovely gallery down in Laxey there?
Yeah, I think it's because it's the museum and it's a place of fabulous things. You know, you've got all the Neolithic things, and it's just a place full of magical items. So to be here is rather lovely.
And speaking of magical items, there's a good smidgen at least of magic in a lot of these wonderful drawings and which form the actual exhibition itself. There's a lot of myth, folklore and magic there.
A lot of it is based in Manx folklore, whether it's I've taken, I did a lot of reading and do a lot of reading of Manx folklore, lots of it in the Manx notebook and the Manx scrapbook and the customs and little snippets that people tell me, and it might just be one word, one line, or a whole story. And so it's just such a wealth of weirdness and loveliness and oddness.
And it's melding of sort of Manx folklore on your own imagination.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that folklore should be static. Just because what is so familiar was collected in the Victorian times doesn't mean to say that there hasn't been more. There isn't more. There is. Everybody has their own little tales and their own little things that they might have seen or heard about. And so I think that it should continue and new stories emerge. I see things, imagine things. And I say, look, people tell me stories as well that their grandmother told them, so it keeps on evolving.
And the actual work here, I mean, there's, 70-odd pieces?
77.
So does this represent many years' work, or how far back does it go?
There are some pieces here that I did quite a long time ago. I mean, I'm talking at least a decade ago, but it's been either reworked or it hasn't even been seen very often, maybe once. I'm familiar with it because it's in my studio, but somebody else might never have seen it. So they've come out as well to have a little play, and it was part of the wanted familiar things as well that people could recognise or they knew the story behind, so that we could create a full experience.
So there'll be some creatures and some bits of folklore people will be familiar with, and just down on the far side where I was walking down there before, there's all sorts of wonderful mythical creatures from your own imagination there as well.
Yes, well, when people lived in the countryside, and it was before all towns and cities, then people had their customs and they had their own very families and traditions. So when they moved into their urban environments, I just think that their family, Fae, jumped on board and went with them. And so they've evolved to take advantage of our digital, urban, technological world so that they can wreak mischief and continue to wreak mischief on a microscopic level.
And it's nice actually looking around as I was looking at some of them a little bit earlier on, and I think it sort of brings you back in context. I often feel, as you say, as we've become more urbanised, we've lost contact with some of this sort of mystery and folklore and some of the sort of creatures and things which in years gone by people, I think, were felt very close to, and now they feel a bit more distanced from.
Yes, I think there are so many things that are put on a screen to show you that people have forgotten what it is to wander around and be inspired by mossy stumps or little things flitting around in hedges. And so it hopefully will inspire people to go outside and enjoy their own sightings and put eyes and ears into things that they see and give them stories and breathe a little bit of magic into their lives.
And there's definitely, as you go around again looking at it, you can sort of see the Manx countryside in so many of the pictures.
It has to. I mean, it just soaks into you. And as I say, I like rootling around in moss and ivy and trees and glens.
What's not to like?
I know. It's a peaceful place, and so it's bound to come out. You take it in, so it is going to leak out somewhere along the line.
And with regards to media, there's coloured drawings, there's pencil, anything else?
There's a bit of ink, there's a bit of charcoal, there's a bit of rainwater, a bit of ash from the fire. There's granulating watercolour, which is delightful, iridescent watercolour, pens, more pens, whatever is in my artist studio, and I do have a pen fetish. So a little bit of everything goes in.
There are worse fetishes to have, I suppose.
It's cheap.
Well, listen, it's been a great joy tonight. As you can hear, it's been super busy on this opening night. How long is it here for at the Manx Museum?
It's on until the 23rd of February 2025.
Gosh, so plenty of time to come in. Are they all for sale, or most of them for sale?
There was all but one are for sale, and there will be prints available. when I get myself into gear to get them done. I've been a bit busy drawing. So they will be in the Manx Museum shop as well, and calendars have just landed, so they're here as well.
Oh, brilliant. And we should also mention, of course, Fenoddery, because you're well known as well as being an illustrator. Someone said 40 years earlier on, that can't be right, but there's Fenoddery gin, of course. Anyone who's drunk a Fenoddery gin will be more than familiar with their artwork, and they've been great here tonight. So as well as enjoying the pictures, you'll be able to enjoy the Fenoddery gin as well.
Oh, absolutely. And in the Fin wing of the exhibition, I've put together some of the initial visuals and the concepts for some of the labels, along with the finished labels, so you can understand why some of the things appear in the label, some of the folklore that is woven within, and the ideas that we brainstorm. So just to give you an idea, so you can sip your gin and know more about it.
I'm going to let you sip your gin now. Many congratulations, great exhibition, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's plenty of time to go and see the exhibition, and I strongly suggest you do, and get in touch with your inner urban spirit. That's about it for this week. If you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst out hop-tune-neighing with your turnip? Pumpkins and trick-or-treaters need not apply. See you next week when we really will hear more about the Easter Play Festival 2025. Look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Emo.